Thank you once again for making Locked On Cougars your first listen of the day. Time now to let you hear from Shehan Jeyarajah from CBS Sports.com. He's got an incredible feel for the Big 12 Conference, and I always love talking with Shehan because he lives in Texas. He has been covering football for a really, really long time. He comes to the Big 12 looking at it from a Texas-centric point of view, which is not a bad thing. I know it can sound negative, but he understands that this conference, it's better when it's the sum total of its parts are existing and coexisting, even thriving all at the same time. And he's got a lot of thoughts about what he expects from BYU, but more importantly, where BYU kind of fits in the Big 12 pantheon this fall. And without further ado, here's that conversation with Shehan Jeyarajah that I had at Big 12 Media Days.
Big 12 Media Days, it's a crazy time. I know you do Media Days all the time, but what's the vibe around this one been in particular from your perspective?
Well, first of all, I mean, the Big 12 does a great job with Media Days. Like, it is as open as you can possibly be. Players, coaches, everybody walking around, media, of course.
Yeah.
And so I always love doing this event, even compared to some of the other ones that I do. But, you know, I think everybody's excited. I think that the energy is high. Obviously, it's always fun that this is the first Media Day that goes on. But I think on top of that, like, everybody knows, especially after last year, that like you can't count anybody out. And so there's excitement everywhere, there's intrigue everywhere. I think that there are 16 good coaches in this league, a lot of good players. I mean, 11 returning quarterbacks, right? So much excitement, I think, around that, and I think that we've really gotten to bask in it.
We talked to you on radio earlier this week. You talked about this potentially being the year of the quarterback in the league. How much can that do for the league's perception to have elite quarterback play?
I think it's huge because, you know, last year was the year of the running back, but I don't think that carries as much weight for people. And the other piece, too, is, you know, there was a Shedeur Sanders, obviously, who was an NFL prospect, but there are a bunch of guys in this league who could enter the first, second, third round conversation, right? Like, it's not just necessarily having good college players. It's also having guys that get on NFL radars, that compete for All-America status. You know, we'll see if anybody can get into the Heisman race, but, like, there are players who have that capability, right? And so, you know, you look at EA Sports, 5 of their top 20 quarterbacks are from the Big 12, and by the way, they completely screwed Josh Hoover for not being on that list. I think that he clearly should have been there. So, again, there's a lot of upside, and I mean, here's the reality too, right? Especially for teams that aren't like a fan's primary team, you want to watch fun quarterbacks. And I think that if there's a little bit more at that position, like, yeah, the running backs and defenses are great, but I think that quarterbacks are really what brings a lot of attention.
The thought was about 2 months ago that BYU was going to be part of that quarterback conversation. Jake Retzloff obviously off and find his next stop. What's your perception of BYU going into this year without him?
Well, I've said for most of the offseason that I saw 5 teams as being in my top Big 12 contender group, and I don't think that this pushes BYU all the way out, but I think that this puts them on the borderline instead of in that group. Yeah. And the reason that I say that is less because I think that BYU can't be a great team next year. I mean, this is a defensive-led team, right? Like, I think that kind of got lost in translation at times last year, that they were a top 5 pass defense in the country. But Jake Retzloff was so important to how they ran their offense last year. Just with, obviously the injuries they had at running back, and he was able to step up in a big way. He was able to go downfield. He had some great receivers to work with. And the receivers are back. I think the running game should be really good. Offensive line, obviously, some turnover. But, like, you kind of want to know, do you have a conductor there that can really make it all happen? And I think not just the fact that they don't have Jake Retzloff back, it kind of sucks that they don't get to go through spring camp and build an offense around the skill set of McKay Hillstead or Chasen Borgett or Bear Bachmeier, right? Like, they're going to have to figure out how they want to run their offense on the fly. And so that just means that there might be a few more bumps in the road, I think, than what there would have been with a returning quarterback. I still think that BYU should expect to be in the top tier of the Big 12 and have a chance in November to go. But they go from being what was, for me, a favorite to being a contender.
Got it. Now, Kalani Sitake enters his 10th season at BYU. Where do you think he fits in the pantheon? You already mentioned there's 16 really good coaches. Where does he fit in the Big 12 in terms of the coaches?
Well, I'll tell you what, he's, to me, the most underrated coach in the Big 12. I think that I even mentioned this to him yesterday, actually. I think that people view him and viewed BYU coming into last year as the 5-7 program they were in year one, and not the team that won 9 games like in 5 of the last 6 years, right? Like, this is a program that's been really good for a long time. They won 11 freaking games last year. Like, I don't think people talk about it enough. Yeah. And he's been decisive. He's made the right calls. He's brought in good quarterbacks. He's brought in good systems. Like, I think that he does everything that you want a great coach to do in this era. And I think that he also does a great job of building relationships with his players. And so, I mean, you just, again, like, I was talking to somebody yesterday, and I was like, the thing is, right, like, if Kalani Sitake wasn't a great coach, you'd want him to be a great coach so that he could be the head coach at BYU, right? Yeah. And it's just a benefit that he's a great coach. So I would have him for sure in my top 25 coaches in college football. I think that to get into that top 15-ish conversation, top 10-ish conversation, you got to win big. Yeah. You got to win that Big 12 title. You got to be on that stage. But I have every faith that he has the capability of doing so. Once you get to the top 25, it's about what you do from then.
BYU's perception nationally kind of ranges person to person. What is your perception of the Cougars?
Well, I mean, they're a great program. Yeah. They bring in great players. They develop at a high level. Obviously, they've had success at the quarterback position historically. Yeah. And I think that, BYU's, especially under Kalani Sitake, is supposed to be a program that's good on defense. I'm glad that in the last 2 years they've really gotten back to that with Jay Hill coming out. I think he's done a tremendous job. And so they're a team that's tough, physical, a tough out every single week. I mean, for people who don't know, I'm a Baylor grad, right? And I remember that 22 Baylor BYU game. Yeah. And teams were just banging into each other, right? Like, that's how BYU football is supposed to be. It's supposed to be scary, it's supposed to be physical, and it's supposed to be innovative on offense. And again, I think that they've done a really good job of capturing that in this era.
There you go, Shehan Jeyarajah. Big thank you to him for taking the time to join myself. And as I mentioned, this is a guy who is a Texas thoroughbred. I believe he's from the Dallas-Fort Worth area growing up, and he covered high school football in Texas. He now covers college football on a national level. He understands this sport intrinsically, and more importantly, the Big 12 Conference. And he thinks that BYU's got a pretty bright future in this conference. And that should excite you as a Cougar fan. This season's got a whole lot of unknowns. Obviously, that's what we've heard from all these different people. We've had Andy Staples. If you didn't miss that, go back and check out our Wednesday show. We had Bruce Feldman yesterday, and now you have Shehan Jeyarajah talking today about BYU and the fit in the Big 12. More importantly, where they fit in the race this fall. Yeah, with all those unknowns, I think it's hard to kind of say, hey, BYU's an odds-on favorite. Had they had Jake Retzloff, for example, that probably would have changed the conversation around BYU. But the simple fact of life is they don't have that, and they have to move forward here. And I think that guys like Shehan absolutely understand the mix, and I think he understands that BYU in time, they absolutely are going to be a program that is going to be one of the big dogs in the conference. But more importantly than that, he even believes that this season it still could be that if BYU gets the right mix of guys and the right answers to the questions that are kind of dogging them right now as they get ready for training camp. So as always, a big thank you to Shehan for taking the time to join us here on the podcast. And if you don't check out his work, get over to cbssports.com, check out CBS Sports overall and what he is doing for that network. So I think he does an incredible job covering the Big 12 and college football by extension.